Well, hello everybody. This is Brother Todd with your Victory Minute, and I hope you boys and girls out there all having a good day. As I'm making this video for you, it is January the 1st, 2025. Probably won't put it out till tomorrow because the very reason that I'm able to make this minute here in my office is because the office is quiet today. Everybody let everybody off for the holiday, and we have church tonight, but this video won't go out because I don't have anybody here. And normally our church campus and office is such a busy place, I can't make these inside. But anyway, I thought maybe being the first day of the year, I'd put this little thought out for you. Hopefully, be a help to you this year, because we all want to have a good year. We all want 2025 to be a year where we got stronger rather than weaker. And one of the things that can really stop that is when we don't act, or we're not able to act. As I walked out of this office yesterday, I walked down the step and I thought, well, it's New Year's Eve. And we didn't know, we ended up having some real tragic things going on yesterday evening. But when I walked out, of course, I didn't know what was going to be happening. And but I thought, well, hopefully have a quiet New Year's Eve. And I got to thinking about how 25 years ago, the whole world was on edge. 1999, of course, was turning into the year 2000. And if you've ever heard the Y2K scare and all that stuff, they were convinced the computers were all going to malfunction. We're going to have all these big problems, and we was going to have thermonuclear wars. The computers decided to start fighting each other and all kinds of stuff. And it was a panic, and it had been building for a good while. And I was thinking about how, as I walked to the truck, the world's always got something for you to be scared about. And I've lived enough decades now that I can stack up one decade after another of, oh, this crisis is going to happen. Oh, this bad thing's going to happen. And one scary thing after another, scary thing after another. And you wonder, why is it that the world system operates in such a way? Why is there so much attention given to creating fear in people? And fear is one of the things that will completely rob you of every good thing you want to see happen in this coming year. And the reason, of course, why the system, the old devil and his group, is always perpetuating fear is there's two things that happen when people get fearful. Number one, they'll typically do about anything to be safe, and that includes give up freedoms. If you'll notice, every time there's a scare, every time it seems like we're at a cataclysmic end, you'll always see governments rush in to control things, and people will let them. They'll let them. I mean, I think one of the most destructive things we've done against individual freedoms in America was the Patriot Act, but we just keep. It's in act, and we just keep doing it. We keep letting them spy on us, and God only knows what they're listening to right now through my little video and on my little device right now. And those kinds of things. We give up freedoms so that we have often no more than a perception of safety. And so people that'll give up freedoms, more freedoms you give up, the easier you are to control. And I'm not here to be some political theorist, baby, but all you got to do is study world history, and you'll see there is always a few trying to control a many, and that is just a reality. If you can get people fearful, they will give up their freedoms in exchange for what they perceive as a safety. The second thing that happens when people get fearful is they don't tend to act. Now, if I walk in, me and you are in a situation individually that causes us fear. Well, what are the most common responses? There's flight, I want to run from it. There's fight, right? Let's just knuckle up and get it on. I'll protect myself or others. And then the other is to freeze. Well, if you think about how the old devil works things and the system works things, is the one they can just about guaranteeing that most people will do is they'll freeze. If they just go natural, okay? The truth is in a bigger scheme of things, you running is not an option. Running's not an option when we have love. Just running away from obligations sometimes sounds like a good thing. We get fearful about the future. We just want to bolt. Well, you can't bolt with a wife and kids. You can't bolt on your husband. You don't want to leave your family. You can't leave them in a lurch. So the love makes that to where that's not as much a possibility. Fight, it's also the same thing. What kind of repercussions are going to come if I was to take a stand against this in a notable and noticeable way? Well, the powers that be are going to come down and they're going to make things harder on my family. So what do? We get steal. That's the natural tendency. Of the three options, it's really the only one that if we're in a loving relationship with people that we can actually tolerate or stomach. Okay, it's that responsibility of love kind of holds us to be still. Now that's what the enemy wants us ultimately to do, is to act in the natural realm. There's another thing you can do, and that is you can act with intention. You can act with purpose. You can act in balance, okay? But you have to act. You have to take the opportunity that you have. The whole world lives in different sets of freedoms, but you have to be able to use what you got. Don't relegate it to others. You have to be intentional about your own life. And remember, New Year's resolutions are full of good intentions, but good intentions falter when they don't get intentional. You have to use the opportunity you have, and you have to engage spiritually. You have to engage in balance. You have to engage in reason. All that are all outside those natural responses, right? You've seen people that go into a protective mode. Let's say it's fight time for them, and they just go crazy. Well, that's not going to be very productive in a real fight. Somebody that can fight and stays purposeful is going to mess you up if you just lose your mind, go to run around like a crazy person. And same thing's true of flight or you freeze, right? You have to act with purpose. And so there's lots of things always coming against us. We don't know what the future is going to hold. We are uncertain. We try to live by sight and not by faith. And we get stuck. And that's what happens the most. They get stuck. If you're a young person out there listening to me, most old people didn't start out to just accept mediocrity. They got stuck in it. They came up to one situation after another where there could be consequences they couldn't control. It could be great effort, those kind of things. But a lot of times it's just a continual pressure of trying to get you fearful enough to just be still and just to say, well, this is just how life's going to be. A lot of things are outside of our control. I'm not trying to say that. And we're all trying to discern what God's will is and operate within it. But when you've got those choices to be made, and one of them is just to be fearful and to not act, and the other is to be intentional, well, you tell me, which one do you think God is really behind in your life? Which one do you think God will really seek to empower in your life? So just think about it as you kind of think about the things you want to see happen, the changes you want to see in your own self. Don't let the fear of failure, don't let the fear of the unknown cause you to just be still. Because if you keep doing the same things, you're going to keep getting the same results. And that's just a reality. And again, you don't have to take off crazy and those kind of things. I'm just saying, act intentionally. That's really a definition of courage in a lot of ways. It's not that there's not fearful things. It's not that there's not dangerous things, but the ability to act in spite of, to control the fear, the nervousness, the anxiety, and to act in spite of it, and to act in control, to act with purpose. Those kind of abilities carry you a long way in life. I come out of the fire department, and one of the things that they taught us, and I had learned it a lot from really from my dad, who never got rattled, is that when it's the more intense it is, the more intentional you better get. I remember when I was a fireman, I was a young fireman, I noticed these guys never run around. And the old guys told me, said, you ever see a fireman running, run the way he's going? Because something bad has happened, and we got to get away from it for our life. But you can't beat the air. You can't just get so amped up. I used to play football with some guys. They get so amped up in the huddle, there was no use on the field. You got to be intentional. You've got to find out what are the things God really wants you to be doing, and sit down with Him and find that peace and find that plan. And that peace can be awful hard to find when everything in the world's trying to scare you to death, but it's there because the Lord's there. When you look around in every direction, there's something there to stop you, harass you, make you fearful. You got to look up and recognize that even when you're totally surrounded, you're not disconnected from God. And if you're connected to God, well, if He's for you, who can really be against you? Now, I don't know what you're really wanting to see in your life this year. I hope you're intentional enough to think about it, not just let it just kind of come at you. But to live like an eternal being, operating through time right now with an intention, with a plan, with a purpose, with convictions, and to see those things lived out. Why shouldn't you be a stronger Christian? Why can't you be a better spouse or parent? Why can't you be a stronger student? Why can't you see things that you want to see happen in your life? If they're good and godly, amen, go do it. Go do it. And do it in a good and godly way, and God will bless you. That'll be the harder way. It'll be the way of faith, but it's a real way. And so I just hope that truly God uses you this year to accomplish great things. I pray you walk in real peace and in honest power. And if the Lord tarries His coming and He gives us, me and you, grace to live to the end of 2025, I pray we can look back at it and say it's been a good year. And I don't think that always means everything's easy. You can have good days and tough times, but but things that matter happen, and they're not going to happen unless you act. And you're not going to act if you get too afraid or you fold in. So use what you got. Take the freedom God's given you, use it, act with purpose, and go live a great and strong life. I pray God gives you mountains to overcome. And I pray you get to stand on top of every one of them. God bless you, and I hope you have a great year. Bye-bye.